Not knowing the difference between friendly and enemy can be the difference between you having a good time or a bad one with fellow players. Not only does it help you in winning the game, but it also might prevent you from being booted out of the session. My name is Damage Dealer, and today I'm going to help you point that damage in the right direction by showing you some key things to look for when it comes to identifying enemies on the battlefield of ARMA Reforger. Like, subscribe, you know, all that boring shit that I usually say in the video, but for real, it does help me out if you guys could. Anyways, let's get to that video. Before we even start looking at anybody, the one thing you absolutely need to know is that there are 3 different factions on official servers. There's the US Army, the Soviet Army, and FIA. Now the US and Soviet, those are players. FIA is AI. The AI are usually guarding everywhere right off the rip in the very beginning of the game. That's usually your little green marks on the map. Depending on what faction you pick determines the color of your team throughout the rest of the map. If you pick US, everything that's yours will be blue, including team, squads, you know, stuff like that. It'll all be blue. If you pick Soviet, then everything will be red. This also includes the kill feed. Your names and everything will still be red if you pick Soviet. If you pick US, the names will be blue. Team killing in ARMA Reforger is huge. It's happening all over the place. And a lot of it's just due to not knowing the uniforms that associates with each faction. Right now you can see our US guy here, and this is kind of your standard uniform. This is the standard setup, at least, that you'll have for a US soldier. Now, if you're just starting, please just pick one faction and stick with that until you know it inside and out. This will help you to identify your friendlies much quicker, and in the long run, it'll help you identify enemies too. If you take a look at our US guy here, he is wearing a woodland camo, and that is what everybody from the US should be wearing just about. There are little changes you can make here and there, but for the most part, they're going to be wearing a woodland camo with a woodland camo helmet on, so be on the lookout for that. Helmets make a huge difference in here too. I want you guys to really pay attention to the helmet differences in here. Another big thing that stands out are backpacks. Backpacks are definitely different from faction to faction. Like the US Army has this huge, we call it the turtle shell backpack, and look how huge it is. I mean, if you were playing as the US, you should be able to look at that backpack and say, that is definitely a friendly. The Russians do not have backpacks that big, so if you see that, it's probably US. There are going to be some differences, but for the most part, you should all have the same camo. The Soviets have a more tan looking uniform and a little bit different shaped helmet up top too. If you guys notice, it looks more like a, I don't know, like a tin helmet compared to ours that actually has the camo draped over it. So you can really tell a difference if you look at the helmets. The 3 main things I look for is uniform color, helmet shape, and backpack style. And just to be clear, this is on official servers only. And last but not least is your FIA, the good old AI that's in the game guarding every place that you want to capture. They have a somewhat woodland type camo, except it is blended with a kind of lighter green and a reddish tint to it. It's got some blotchy reds in there. Sometimes this gets confusing with wounded soldiers, I've noticed. Some people think it's AI because your uniform's all bloody. So this one you're just going to kind of have to take a real good look at and make sure that it's that red splotchy kind of looking camo. These guys also do not wear helmets. They will either be wearing like a beanie or some sort of cap. And most of you here probably got killed by one that looked just like this with the good old RPG strapped to his back, waiting at every roadblock to blow you up.
Oh, that's worthy, right?
Learning these different camos is going to take time. However, shooting friendlies in the field is a no-go. It can lead to some pretty pissed off players. So let me show you a couple ways to identify friendly from enemy while you're out in the field. Okay, so we thought we heard some shooting up here in this tree line. When you go over here, and you're going to want to see if it's friendly or enemy. Well, what you want to do is kind of zoom in here and see. If you can't look at it, well, then what you need to do is pull out the best tool in the world for looking at things that far away, and that's your binoculars. And look how clear this gets. And right there I can clearly see that that is a Russian player, judging by his helmet and the tan clothes he has on. For some of you, even right here, this might be hard to identify, and if that's the case, you just need more playtime. That's all. So the first thing you want to do is look with your own eyes to identify it. Another good way of looking at your targets is by using the 4x scope that you can get for the M16. It's not as good as the binoculars in my opinion. It doesn't give you quite the clear view that you get with the binoculars, but it also works for tapping down targets at long range. Now here's the difference between the scope and the binos. It just has a better, more crisp view of what you're looking at. And this is exactly what you want if you're having trouble identifying enemies. And if that's not working, next you can pull out your map. And that team we were just looking at was running on that wood line over here to the west. And as you can see, there is no other blue square, which I'm over here with my squad mate. That's why there's a blue square over here. But there's not another blue square over there. So chances are, it's not a squad running that's on our side. It's just another way to help you identify. Now, however, if we did check the map and there was a blue square over there in that wood line, well, that would probably tell you that that's friendlies running through that wood line, and do not shoot it. It's another way to make sure that you're not shooting at your friendlies. If and when you get the chance to look down on an enemy base, go ahead and pay attention to what flag is flying at that base. You also want to be checking your map during this time to see what base maybe you're looking at. Go ahead and check those colors like I told you, and it could be a dead giveaway on who and what you're shooting at. Americans obviously have the American flag, Soviets got the red one if you want to spot it out fast, and the FIA have like a blue and white flag. When it comes to spotting enemies at night, it does become a bit more difficult, and honestly the best advice I can give you is keep checking your map and use those looms. I mean, that is the best advice I could give you. Hell, sometimes even chatting on the radio with somebody could stop you from shooting a few friendlies in the field. And also too, if you don't know, just don't shoot. I mean, if they start firing at you, fire back. But if you don't know, if you absolutely do not know, then don't fire. This is gonna save you from getting yelled at by your teammates and possibly stop you from being booted out of the match completely. And the last thing I got for you guys here is just getting to know the vehicles. Now obviously people are grabbing all different types of vehicles, they're stealing them left and right, so this changes constantly. You don't really know who's going to be in the vehicle, but it's a good outlook. If you know the vehicles well enough and you see one go by that's not yours, I mean, it's a good indicator. Especially the choppers, because these things get shot down by friendlies all the time. So to break it down to you, what you really need to know to identify other enemies or friendlies is a lot of time played, pay deep attention to the uniforms, especially the one that you're wearing, and keep an eye on your map, pay attention to where you're shooting, look to make sure it's not a friendly, and go from there. That is going to do it for today's video. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you hate me, or, you know, if you like the video and it helped you out. Either way, I'm sure I'll be seeing you guys. Got plenty of more tutorials on here. Join us on Discord. You guys can join the membership. And with all that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.
Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign.